Just when Suns fans thought that their team turned things around, the owner Robert Sarver could screw it up. He so far will not pay DeAndre Ayton the max. And Ayton proved that he was a beast last year, especially with Chris Paul in the playoffs. Now, Phoenix can afford to pay him. Robert Sarver is just that cheap. But actually, is he a sneaky genius? I mean, yeah, Ayton was great last season, but was that a fluke? There were big-time injuries that helped the Suns. Chris Paul always makes big men better than they actually are. Maybe not paying Ayton is the right move for the Suns. I'm just kidding, of course it's the right move. This is ridiculous. Robert Sarver is about to mess up the Suns again. This is why Brian Windhorst said, no one wants to work for the Suns. It's why Matt Barnes said, the owner is the problem. If you ask Suns fans, especially before last year, who the worst NBA owner is, they would say Robert Sarver is the worst, with James Dolan of the Knicks right behind him. That's because Dolan actually spends money even though he makes dumb decisions. Sarver screws everything up. He bought the Suns in 2004 and looked like a cheap owner from day one. This guy traded down from the number 7 pick to the number 31 and 20 overall picks for $3 million. The GM, Brian Colangelo, stayed around when Sarver bought the team and he saved the franchise. He traded for Steve Nash and hired Mike D'Antoni, which started the 7 seconds or less Suns. It was like a golden age of Suns basketball. And they could have won a championship if the Lakers weren't also dominant. Then Sarver forced Colangelo out of the job by asking him to take a huge pay cut. Cheap move number 2. So he gave Mike D'Antoni the GM and coaching job, which was a mistake. So eventually he hired Steve Kerr to become GM, who immediately turned things around. He made Alvin Gentry their head coach eventually, traded for Jared Dudley, and drafted Goran Dragic and Robin Lopez. The Suns forced the champion Lakers to 6 games in the 2010 conference finals. Then Sarver asked Kerr to take a huge pay cut. Are you sensing a theme here? Now, I didn't even mention him trading All-Star Joe Johnson in 2010 rather than extending him, which killed the Suns' chances. But the point is that Sarver values his own bank account over the actual team. If he screws things up again, Suns fans have to do something. Stop going to games. Stop buying jerseys. Whatever it takes. I mean, I get not wanting to pay the luxury tax unnecessarily, like that is a ton of money. But people who buy NBA teams should do it because they love basketball, not because they're looking for an investment to make money. I love team owners like Mark Cuban. This dude has tons of other businesses that make him money, but the Mavericks are like his baby. He'll do anything for the Mavericks, their players, and the team. The Mavs aren't just another investment so that he can get more rich. I think NBA owners should basically be like really rich fans. They should hire the right people to do their job and then let them do their job. Root for the team like a fan and spend a ton of money when it's necessary. And this is one of those times for the Suns. Phoenix was like one of the worst teams in sports after they missed 10 playoffs in a row. Then they randomly popped last year, and DeAndre Ayton was a huge reason. He was drafted number 1 in 2018, which obviously is tough because he'll always be compared to like Luka Doncic and Trae Young, who were taken after him. Ayton was a legit disappointment his first 2 seasons. Not because of his box score stats necessarily, but because of his defense and his impact on winning. He sucked at both. Then the Suns got CP3, hired Monty Williams as head coach, so everything changed. Things started slow last year for Ayton, but by the time the playoffs came, he was a big reason they won. When he got a double-double, they went 10-1 in the postseason. He shot an insane 78% from the field to beat the Lakers in round 1, more than held his own in round 2 against Nikola Jokic, who was an MVP, to sweep the Nuggets. And he had my favorite moment of the playoffs when he finished that lob with 0.7 seconds to go to beat the Clippers in Game 2. The best part, though, was his defense. He improved so much on that end, and I think his relationship with Monty Williams was a big reason why. Yes, he got exposed by Giannis in the finals, but I'll let that slide because Giannis is an MVP, and it was Ayton's first playoff run. Right now is not the time to mess around with Ayton's contract. He clearly has room to grow on the court, and this could ruin his relationship with the team. Ayton's camp apparently will not accept anything less than the max, and they shouldn't. He is a top 5 center in the NBA after his growth last season. My top 6 true centers are number 1, Joel Embiid, number 2, Nikola Jokic, 3, Rudy Gobert, 4, Bam Adebayo, 5, Ayton, and 6, Karl Anthony Towns. The reason I rank Embiid over Jokic is because of his two-way ability. The reason I rank DeAndre Ayton over Cat is Ayton's improved defense. Cat is awful defensively, and Towns doesn't lead to winning. He's been to the playoffs one time, and he averaged about 15 points as his team's number 1 option, losing in 5 games. DeAndre Ayton deserves big money, like Michael Porter Jr., also in that 2018 draft class, and if he doesn't get it, another team can swoop in after next year. Ayton will be a restricted free agent after this coming season, and he could get the max elsewhere. Yes, the Suns could still match that, but Sarver is cheap. It's pretty clear he doesn't want to pay the max. I think the best fits for DeAndre Ayton next year, if he doesn't sign, are the Pistons and the Spurs, who both have cap space. Now, Detroit obviously has Isaiah Stewart at center already. He showed decent range, though, last year, hitting about 33% of his threes. Either he or Sadiq Bey would probably have to come off the bench at first, but I think eventually Jeremy Grant will age out of this roster, and Ayton will be more on their timeline because he's 4 years younger than Jeremy Grant. The Spurs have a lot of good young talent in the backcourt, so they would need Ayton in the front court. And Pop is not afraid of a player who doesn't shoot threes. Plus, Ayton's defense would only improve in their system. And another player the Suns haven't extended is Mikal Bridges. He also proved how much of a beast he is last year. If Robert Sarver messes both of their contracts up, it could finally be the thing that gets Devin Booker out of Phoenix, like Draymond Green predicted.
It's great to see Book playing well and Phoenix playing well, but get my man out of Phoenix.
They finally made the playoffs, had some success, but the team owner could ruin the whole thing like NBA fans thought he would. This DeAndre Ayton mess could be sorted out by the end of this coming season. We'll know kind of what it looks like. And by that time, Devin Booker will have 2 years remaining on his contract. That is the exact same amount that James Harden had when he forced his way out of Houston. So this will not be a Ben Simmons situation for Devin Booker. If the Ayton deal isn't signed by the end of this year, then Booker could easily be looking for a trade demand. And he should. We saw he wasn't just a good stats, bad team guy last year. Booker deserves to be in the playoffs every single year, and honestly, so does DeAndre Ayton. Now, there are dysfunctional teams like the Suns, and there are dysfunctional players like Kyrie Irving. And this latest issue with him refusing to get the shot might miss over 41 games, the games played in New York, plus the playoffs. I think it's finally time for the Nets to trade Kyrie Irving, and to me, there is only one guy they could trade him for.